Time to pull up a chair. We've got another great story for you today in the R Lounge. Trying to grasp the whole truth from one perspective is like trying to see the full picture with only one eye open, bound to miss the depth and detail. Today on the R Lounge, we see all sides of the story. Up first, a husband who missed the punchline. Am I the a-hole for kicking my wife out after she punched my mom in the face? My situation went from bad to worse in a matter of a week, and I don't know where else to turn. I need to know if I was wrong. Possibly a validation thing because life is effing dumb right now. My wife and I have been together for 8 years, and she just gave birth to our first, and last, baby 2 months ago. Up until my wife got pregnant, my mom loved her. I'm not sure what the F is wrong with my mom or why the switch happened, but after my wife got pregnant, my mom started being very clingy to me and started avoiding my wife at all costs. Told everyone she wasn't excited about the pregnancy, etc. I threatened to go no contact with her when my wife was about 7 months along, and after that, she snapped out of it for the most part and stopped being so ignorant. The comments 100% stopped, at least, though she still was clinging to me. Now, a week ago, my mom, my sister's husband, and my sister's daughter, 12, came over for dinner. I prepared the meal. Before my wife could eat anything, our daughter got fussy, so my wife excused herself to go feed the baby and get her down to sleep. I thought I prepared enough, but apparently not because my niece was still starving. She's 5'5" and 190 pounds. I haven't seen her in a year, and she was not that size then, so I didn't exactly portion in an extra 3 helpings for a child, so it's on me. I apologized to her that I hadn't made any more and offered her crackers, as I was putting my wife's portion in the fridge. After that, I just went outside with my sister's husband to smoke a cigarette and shoot the breeze. Didn't think anything of it. But then I hear yelling from inside. When I walk in, my wife and my mom were screaming at each other. Apparently my mom, who saw me put my wife's food away, gave my niece my wife's portion of food. As I was walking inside, I heard my mom say, "Looks like you can afford to skip a meal," and slap my wife's stomach. Right as soon as I get ready to step in, literally fast walking toward them yelling, "Enough!" my wife whines back and punches my mother square in the face and drops her. The whole house went silent outside of my mom crying and holding her face. I tell everyone to get the F out. Immediately, everyone leaves and my wife just turns toward the counter and leans with her hands on the counter face down, eyes closed. I look at my wife and say, "You two, leave, now." She says, "Really?" She's crying at this point. I say a clipped, "Yup." She packs up her and the baby and leaves. I text her that night and say I just need space. I need to decompress and come to terms with what just happened. She doesn't respond. The next 5 days I'm texting and calling and I get nothing. She shows up here today, so 8 days later, and hands me divorce paperwork and my baby and says, "Here, you have a bit to hang out with her while I pack. Where I'm breastfeeding, we can work out a visitation schedule that is either at your place or my mother's until she will take a bottle." I told her that's not what I want. I don't want to separate. I just needed time to process her punching my mother in the face. She said, "You needing time to process gave me time to process the fact that I refused to be in this situation any longer. I defended myself. I initially felt bad and remorseful, but you making me leave when I needed you made me see more clear. I'm done. I'm sorry for what I did, but there's no fixing this." She refused to speak to me at all the rest of the time that she was here. My house feels so empty and I don't know what to do. Am I the a-hole for making her leave after she punched my mom? I just needed some effing space. ETA. For the record, I am team wife. My mom deserved it, wholeheartedly, and I've blocked her completely from my life. I literally just needed time to process what happened. My wife is a lot of things. Violent is not one of them. So this came completely out of left field and would not have happened without her being provoked. After it all happened, my mom sent me a text saying, "See, I told you she was crazy. That fat witch doesn't belong in our life." I'm willing to bet she purposely tried to set my wife off. So no, I'm on my wife's side 100%. I truly just needed to process what happened, and my wife took it as me giving up on her, not defending her, and throwing her and our baby out, which did essentially happen because I knew she had to take the baby with her when I kicked her out. ETA. The reason why. My dad was stupid abusive. I was beat. My sisters and brother were beat. My mom was put in the hospital multiple times. It took years for police to enforce restraining orders, and he finally died in 2013. Violence scares the F out of me. I clam up and get anxious around violence of any kind now. My wife knows this, and she too grew up with a violent dad, stepdad. And she just gets as anxious and panicky around violence. Her punching my mom in the face triggered an anxious response, and I needed her gone in that moment. I needed it far away from me. I don't know why I didn't just leave. I could have. But in that moment, I just let my emotions and fear run the whole effing circus and told everyone to get out, her included. My mom did slap her first. I guess for some reason I was seeing my wife's punch as being worse than the slap. It wasn't a hard slap, but my wife did kind of wince, looking back on it now. She was fine, following, but my mom was bleeding. Split her eyebrow open in good shape. I don't know. Thanks for the responses. I'm the a-hole. I'm going to try to go kiss butt now. Let's check with the community for some relevant comments. First off, the OP has this to say. My mom did hurt her. She slapped her in the stomach and my wife winced back in pain before punching her in the face. As a few other people have pointed out, I guess new moms have muscles separated in their abdomen, so given the force that my mom slapped her in the stomach, like a little bit below the rib cage, fully backhanded slap, which would be heard from the door. I guess it's comparable to hitting my wife in her internal organs, because her stomach muscles aren't healed? I just learned that. Someone from the community actually chimes in, I'm sorry, you're saying it wasn't a hard slap, but you could hear it? Unless it was skin on skin, slaps are not usually something that can be heard at a distance. Someone else chimes in, yep, you're the a-hole. Your mom wants to be your wife, or at least more important than her. You really did need to prioritize your wife over your mother. End of story. I hope you get another shot at it. Kinda depends on the past. If she has enough positive memories to make it worth her while, in her mind. The OP replies, starting to see that. My wife sent me a text about 10 minutes ago saying, look up emotional incest, with no context. Definitely describes what my mom's doing. I did completely block her, but it won't help my case. Someone else from the community chimes in, info, what other comments did your mom make about your wife? The OP replies, that she was stealing me away, that she wasn't good enough, made a few comments about baby trapping me, never said it directly to me or my wife, but it got back to us quick. She tried denying it at first, but later confirmed she said it. That's when I threatened no contact and nothing ever got back to us after that. I just assumed all had cleared up. Well, let's take a moment to unpack this family fiasco, shall we? First off, your mom decides it's appropriate to serve up a side of physical assault along with dinner, slapping her wife's belly like it's a punching bag. Classy move, Mom. And then, instead of stepping in like a knight in shining armor, you decide to hit the eject button on your wife faster than a bad Tinder date. Seriously, talk about dropping the ball. Your mom's behavior was straight up unacceptable, and your failure to put her in her place was like giving her a gold star for bad behavior. Here's a pro tip next time. It's your job to play referee and call foul. Maybe it's time to brush up on your conflict resolution skills and show your mom who's boss. After all, it's your wife's well-being on the line, not just the last slice of pie. What do you think? Next up, her truth. My response to my husband's post, am I the a-hole for kicking my wife out after she punched my mom in the face? I'm still grieving at the loss of my marriage, but my friend had notified me about my husband's post that had too many specific details that were hard to ignore. To clarify, this is my first time on Reddit. I read my soon-to-be ex-husband's post and wanted to give my side of the story and include details that he didn't provide in his post. For those who hadn't read it, long story short, my husband kicked me out of the house after his mother had physically slapped my stomach in front of him and I punched her in self-defense. I loved my husband dearly, but his lack of action regarding his mother's behavior was extremely disgusting, to say the least. I tolerated his mom's behavior long enough until I couldn't take it anymore, as he had overlooked his mom's behavior over and over again that finally I had enough. I was still recovering after giving birth to his child when his mom slapped my stomach, and my husband exaggerated when he said it wasn't a hard slap. The slap itself was hard enough to be heard by everyone in the room. I had lost it at this point when his mother slapped my stomach with a turd-eating smirk that wasn't visible from my husband's point of view. At least that's what my husband claimed. I had a mental breakdown when my husband told me to leave after kicking everyone out of the house. You should have seen his face when he told me to get out with a straight face and without hesitation. Our baby was crying at this point before I left, and I couldn't do anything but cry that night after I went to stay with my mother. His mother sent me a text mockingly saying, "I'm going to file charges against you for assault, you fat little whore. Now stay the F out of our lives." She ended the text with a smiley face at the end. I was livid and decided I did not want to be associated with this family anymore and served my husband divorce papers. And as you can guess, he didn't take it well and tried to get me to reconsider. I told him that he overlooked his mother's behavior one too many times, and I was done with him and his inability to establish boundaries with his mother. I recommended setting boundaries, but he didn't think it was necessary even after I told him throughout the pregnancy about the nasty times his mother called me when he wasn't around, and he always brushed it off. Even though he did tell his mom to stop, she would continue this behavior after a short pause for a while. Before I left after handing him divorce papers, he begged me for another chance and told me he cut contact with his mother permanently. I told him that he is sorry now that I handed him divorce papers, and that he was too late to act now that I decided I wanted out of the marriage. I told him I loved him so much that he should look at it as a sign that if I didn't, then I would have divorced him long ago because he didn't stand up for me multiple times, and I let his mother's snarky comments and behavior slide at my mental expense. I told him he needed help with the trauma because I understand that he is dealing with trauma since he already mentioned my abusive stepdad, but he didn't even realize that his mother hadn't gotten him help for his trauma, that he is still being affected in his adulthood. What I can't understand is why he didn't leave if he needed some space instead of being such a heartless bastard and kicking our child out with me. I've been ignoring his texts and calls ever since, and I'm waiting for a divorce hearing. Something that I wanted to point out is that his mother had attributed to his niece's weight gain, since she lives with my husband's sister to save money. I, once again, told my husband about his niece's weight gain that it's concerning that she weighs 190 pounds at such a young age. And she was indeed not that weight before. On the day of the incident, I was making the niece's second portion of food, and then my husband's mother came toward me and snatched the plate out of my hands and said, "I'll do it myself, let me take care of it." And when I tried to take the plate back, his mother said, "I know what to effing do. You don't know how to properly feed someone as healthy as my grandchild." I was shocked that she thinks her grandchild's weight was normal for her age. I couldn't take this harassment or abuse any longer, and my breaking point was reached when he kicked me and our child out of the house. Now I need to do what's right for our child because she doesn't need to be in a toxic household where she has to witness the drama going on. My soon-to-be ex-husband wants us to do marriage counseling, to which I have refused to do so because I am done with him. I'm starting to feel slightly guilty with his begging and gaslighting. I just want to be done with him. I've blocked him as recommended by my lawyer, but he keeps reaching out through his other family members and siblings. What should I do to make him go away until the divorce hearing? Time for the community reactions. First up, he kicked out his baby rather than leaving himself. He knew the baby was breastfeeding and didn't care. Monster. He can go date his mother. Someone else chimes in. He also had all the time it took his wife to pack up at least enough stuff for 2-month-old baby for a couple of days, and he didn't have a second thought? That's not a quick process. I remember packing a special baby stuff box that was the size of a cool box and similar kinds of portable stashing it under the pram when we just went out for the day. Also, there have been quite a few a-holes of varying levels on posts who had their brain catch up with their actions when they saw their significant other packing their child and children's stuff up. But this guy? Nope. 1. He shouldn't have let it get this far. 2. He should have backed his wife up and chucked his mother in hangers on out. 3. He should have found his space by moving himself, even if it was elsewhere in the house if that's his safe place. 4. He should have snapped out of it to change to a different course of action while she packed up. But he didn't, and he just killed his marriage stone dead. I hope for his sake, and that of his soon-to-be ex and kid, that he still cuts his mother and any other toxic family off and gets the support and does the work he needs. Healthy co-parenting is what he should be aiming for now. Someone else wants to say, I say this from the bottom of my heart. F the husband and F his spineless effery. One more person chimes in. I tell my toddler students, if you need space, it's on you to walk away. Your friend is allowed to exist in our room just like you are allowed to exist. If you're having big feelings and you need room to feed them all, it is not her job to give you what you need. It is your job to get it yourself. You are the boss of your body and she is the boss of her body, and it is not her responsibility to help you when you have emotions. You can ask nicely for space or for help, but if you demand it in a mean voice, the answer is going to be no, and nobody will feel bad about saying no. Another comment says, I remember the initial post, and many people were pointing out, why didn't you just leave if you needed space? And basically, good luck with the divorce because you just made your infant child homeless and your wife will never forgive you. And husband was fighting for his life in the comments. I just needed space. I don't want a divorce. I have trauma. What was I supposed to do? I wasn't thinking. I just needed her to be away from me. My dad hit my mom, so she triggered my trauma. It's her fault. It's not my fault. It can't be my fault. She deserves this, and I'm just a little helpless being stuck in the middle. Everyone was saying, "You effed up. Call your wife and beg before it's too late. It probably already is." Obviously, he didn't take that approach, so convinced that he was the victim in all this. The vibe at the time was, sure, my mom smacked her, but my wife took it too far and I'm traumatized, so she needed to leave since she triggered me. She's the one in the wrong, so she should be apologizing. Anyway, I'm so effing glad his wife is leaving. He's such a piece of crap. She doesn't deserve that. Reading your side of the story feels like getting hit with a reality check. Hard. Your husband's Reddit post was like a twisted game of telephone, conveniently skipping over the crucial details of his mother's behavior and his own spineless response. Let's start with the slap heard round the room. Literally. Your husband downplayed it like it was a gentle tap, but you set the record straight. That slap wasn't just disrespectful, it was downright abusive, especially considering you were still recovering from childbirth. But the real kicker? Your husband's complete lack of action. Instead of defending his wife like a decent human being, he decided to kick you out faster than yesterday's garbage. His face might have been straight, but his moral compass was nowhere to be found. And then there's his mom's charming text message, complete with insults and a smiley face. Classy lady, that one. So, what should you do? Stick to your guns. Block him, ignore him, and let your lawyer handle the rest. You deserve better than a man who puts his mommy issues above his own family. And as for him and his mommy dearest, well, let's just say they deserve each other. Thoughts? Who's team husband? Who's team wife? Let us know in the comments below. And thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell before you leave. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's topic, so feel free to leave a comment. See you next time in the R Lounge.